Hey everybody, it's Chuck Dixon back once again for another episode of What You Readin'. People ask me all the time, what are you reading? What do you read when you're not writing? And it's a frequent question. So I do these special segments just to cover my, my current journal, vlog, whatever you want to call it, of what I've been reading. I've reviewed books in this series before, Carthago. I have no idea how to pronounce the title of this series. It's a terrific. I think there's 5 or 6 books. These are French graphic albums translated into English and published here by Humanoids. And they involved this one in particular. They involve like cryptozoology and stuff like that. It's got a heavy X-Files feel to it. The main character in the series is a man who is well over 100 years old, who collects, zoological oddities. He looks for, crypto creatures like Bigfoot and Yetis and things like that. And this volume concerns, for a large part of it, a character named Kane, who is a human. He's a human fish hybrid. This is like if you did Namor or Aquaman and you took it seriously. it's like hard science fiction version of an underwater aquatic mutant. And like every other book in this series, extraordinarily well done with some absolutely amazing action sequences, high suspense, lots of drama. One reviewer called this series the Halloween issue of National Geographic, and I think that's a pretty accurate description. And of course, any of the stories involving megalodons include these incredibly violent but wonderfully well done shark attacks, which are the visceral highlight of any of these volumes. Just amazing stuff, as you can see, well drawn, well thought out. A lot of suspense, very, very European feel to these stories, which they're taken quite seriously. But good stuff. Good stuff. If you get a chance to check out the series Carthago or Carthago from Humanoids, I urge you to do so. You will not be disappointed. I was traveling, so I took along this Western paperback. It's a gold medal paperback Western, my favorites. And it's Showdown in Sonora, written by Gordon D. Sheriffs. I think you can find newer editions of this. A lot of Gordon D. Sheriff's books have been reprinted in double editions, print on demand. But I like to read the old paperbacks. And Gordon D. Sheriffs never, ever disappoints. This is a simple Western plotline. A former manhunter wants to settle down on his ranch in New Mexico, but of course, circumstances won't allow that. And he's pretty much extorted into going back on the bounty hunting trail to go after a man who was once his boon compadre and best friend. And the pursuit down into Mexico, involving Apaches and rurales and bandidos and revolutionaries and federales. It's just a hell of a story. It's a chase story in part. It's a good shoot 'em up story, a great character study. Sheriffs always writes with a tremendous amount of authority, particularly about Apaches. You're actually going to learn something about the Apaches reading this book. Not that he's trying to be educational, but and also he's great at building character, believable, three-dimensional characters, and terrific action. And he knows the country he's writing about well, and that comes through in the writing. Gordon D. Sheriffs, any Western he's written, I recommend, highly recommend. He's one of the better of the paperback Western writers of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Okay, this is another series I've reviewed before, Buck Danny. These are available through Cinebook, who I promise you, they don't send me these free. I know I talk about Cinebook a lot, but I like most of their output because they're publishing European graphic albums with excellent English translations. Buck Danny is a kind of Steve Canyon type story. It's about an American aviator, military aviator, and his adventures. Kind of a Tom Clancy feel, although I like these stories a lot better than Tom Clancy. They seem more believable to me than a Tom Clancy story. And this one in particular, every book in this series is fun and well done and well crafted. But this one in particular was excellent. And it involves a very, very, very suspenseful story about the closing days of the Cold War, when America and the Soviet Union were going through détente and glasnost and all those other words that we had to learn in the 80s and 90s. And of course, there are factions within the Russian military who want to thwart any kind of reconciliation or reapproachment between the United States and Soviet Union, trying to prevent the fall of the communist regime. And Buck Danny and his pals are caught in the middle of it. Lots of dogfights and intrigue and espionage stuff, but it's all so well handled. It's very, very hard to build suspense in a comic book story. But these guys do an amazing job. This, I like I said, I enjoy most of these. I enjoy all of the Buck Danny adventures I've read, but this one really is a standout. This would have made one hell of a movie in the 90s. Of the Air Force One or Clear and Present Danger variety of military thriller, and they exceeded themselves on this one. And I look forward to reading more volumes in the Buck Danny series. Another one I read recently, another series I've reviewed before many times, the classic Belgian Western parody Lucky Luke, which again from Cinebook. Cinebook is publishing all of these in excellent English translations. And this one is, again, like the Buck Danny book, I always enjoy the Lucky Luke, but this one's kind of a standout. It's not by Goscinny and Morris. It's by a bunch of guys, two guys showing up later to work in their style, and they work perfectly in their style. That's what I like about European comics. When the original creators either pass on or retire, the series is lovingly taken on by people who want to continue the series in the vein, in the mold, in the appearance that it was before. And even when they do reboots, they're loving reboots where they don't change the core of the property. They just bring out what everybody really liked about it. And this is a perfect example. Lucky Luke is always a Western parody, but this time it's a little more pointed. It's a little sharper. Because often, in addition to being a parody of classic Westerns, sometimes they'll parody what's going on in the world at the moment. And in this story, a well-meaning animal rights activist, a follower of the founder of the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, goes west and tries to push his agenda on Western folks. And of course, runs into all kinds of trouble when Lucky Luke comes upon him. The people of Cattle Gulch are trying to hang him. And what's great about it is they show the arguments of the animal rights guy, but they also show how you can take a good cause too far. And it's a very, very deft satire on basically what we're seeing going on around us politically, where political leaders will take an issue that seems like a good thing, like let's save the kittens. And then, a couple of years later, you have the Save the Kittens department employing, hundreds of thousands of people, costing billions of dollars a year. And in the end, no kittens get saved. Just somebody's brother-in-law gets a job and a pension. And it's kind of what this is about. This well-meaning animal rights activist gets taken advantage of by a bunch of hoods who see this as a way to take over Cattle Gulch. They're going to use his be kind to animals approach to basically put their thumb on the scale and oppress the people of this small town, of course, until Lucky Luke arrives to save the day and set things right. And of course, in doing this, these banditos who decide that they're going to oppress the people of Cattle Gulch and turn them all into tree huggers and PETA members. Things get complicated with the local Comanche tribe. So there's lots of action, lots of fun, lots of terrific jokes, lots of social commentary that doesn't tell you what to think about the subject. It's sort of a cautionary tale about where good intentions lead. And what I really liked about it was that it has a moment in it, and I won't spoil it for you, but it has a moment in it toward the end of the story. It has a holy shit moment in a Lucky Luke comic, and it's a holy shit moment. It's just highly dramatic. It's a surprising, comes out of nowhere moment, but perfectly fitting. It's perfectly executed within the Lucky Luke milieu. It doesn't do anything to disrupt the reality of Lucky Luke's world. But in the moment that it happens, if you're a longtime Lucky Luke reader, it's shocking, absolutely shocking. And I no hyperbole. If you don't make this your first Lucky Luke book, read a few before you read this one if you've never read the series before. But it really is an amazing piece of craftsmanship by the writer and artist on this book to put a scene like that together. Something that we've never seen in Lucky Luke before, but perfectly fits, and does not violate the format or the feel or the like I said, the milieu, to use a French word, of the Lucky Luke series. Now you may have noticed that all the comics I reviewed are from overseas, and that's because I try to read current American comics, and I read a few recently that were recommended to me. And I found them so deeply disappointing. And some of them were from creators that I like. And no, I'm not going to tell you which ones. But there was just something missing. Just something not there. What's going on? None of these were crowdfunded books. These were all books from major publishers. And it's just disappointing stuff. And so, I went back to reading stuff I knew would be good. I knew would be reliably entertaining, which was European graphic novels. Now, speaking of reliably entertaining, Alpha Core #1 is a real thing. I visited the warehouse in Texas, and I signed thousands of them. I saw cases piled to the ceiling of Alpha Core #1, and it is available now from the Rippaverse. Alpha Core #1 is me joining the Rippaverse with art house dynamo, artistic dynamo, Joe Bennett, on a superhero cop story. These are superhero cops. They are not masked vigilantes. They are public figures and public servants, and they get involved in it's all the elements of what you would love in a super destructive superhero story, combined with like a buddy cop film or a police thriller. And man, oh man, I loved writing it, and I love working with Joe. And I love getting to go to Texas and meet all the Rippa folks. Eric and his crew, they're just amazing people. Made me feel really at home. The campaign's still going on and going well. Last time I looked, we're getting close to $1 million in sales. And we're getting close to moving like 20,000 copies of Alpha Core #1. It is a graphic novel. It's not just a pamphlet. It's a 100-page graphic novel, one and done story. And Joe Bennett just knocks it out of the park. He and I are already at work on a second project for Rippaverse of a character he and I created. And I've also written a third project for another artist at Rippaverse. So I'm there to stay. I'm there till the wheels come off. So if you want to hop on over there, follow the link that I will provide and see what you think. But I think you'll enjoy it. So that's it for me. I'll keep reading. You keep watching. I'll see you down the road.